welcome to The Child's View. I'm Sharon Brown. I'm here with my colleagues, Dr. Bernadette Towns and Becky Roth. Today we're going to be talking about family pets and is a pet right for you and what happens when that pet reaches that stage where we need to talk about death with children. So give a little history. Pets have been part of human relationships going back thousands of years. First it was for convenience. Pack of wolves helped hunt, and they went from hunting and gathering by themselves to hunting with animals, and then they connected with trying to create relationships and domesticate those wolves. And so down the line, now we have dogs and cats and other pets that we have in our families. They have been part of the war, all of the wars, dogs, horses, even pigs in some of the wars. And then we have a selected few that are working dogs now. I know you've seen those service dogs for children with autism, people who have diabetes, people who have seizures, heart disease. All of these dogs work with them. We've taken them into our family and we've made them members of our family. I'm here today with Dr. Ann Hudick. She is the veterinarian in charge of the teaching hospital at the Regional Occupation Center for the Kern High School District. Welcome, Ann. Thank you for coming. I just have a few questions for you. First of all, is there something that you can tell us, maybe a pet you would recommend for a child, a young child? Say 4 or 5.
4 or 5?
Yeah.
It actually depends on them. We have to teach them that, you know, for instance, dogs with tails or cats with tails, that's part of their body. Because they're just learning their body parts and they don't have one of those. They're like,
yeah, they kind of like to explore that. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So for my son, his first pet was actually a guinea pig. And the guinea pig doesn't have a tail. And it has ears with no fur, and they resemble human ears. So the child immediately knows the eyes and the ears. The nose, not so much, because their noses are very different. And they typically, we've talked about it, they sit there, they whistle, they squeak, they purr, they toddle back and forth, but pretty much other than that, they eat and poop.
Good. So would you recommend a guinea pig over, say, a hamster?
Yeah, absolutely. Hamsters bite. Yes, hamsters bite. And oftentimes, if a child picks them up inappropriately, they can swing around in their own skin and inflict a pretty good wound. The guinea pigs, they don't think of that. Just don't.
Again, eat and poop.
They stand really still if they're really frightened.
Okay.
And they stop what they're doing and they stand absolutely still, and it makes them unfortunately prey for predators. But for a pet, that's kind of the thing. If there's a loud noise or something, pretty much they stop what they're eating, or they stop purring or whistling, and they stand really still in their little people style. But that's about all they do.
Okay. So, you know, we see this happen every Easter. People go out and buy their little person a bunny, and they generally buy the baby bunny and not the rabbit. What do you think about bunnies for small young children?
They're very fragile, and they can break their own backs by themselves running. And of course, that's catastrophic to a child that their bunny suddenly can't use their legs. And there's little that the veterinarian can do for something like that.
So you would maybe not recommend that? No. Or a duckling or a chick? Okay.
Yeah, because also their droppings are liquid, because it's a combination of urine and feces, and it's not something that you can easily pick up.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So
a little pellet. I mean, they're dry.
Sorry. A lot of people, go ahead.
I was just thinking that the practical information that you're giving us is great.
Yeah, I did not know some of this.
Yes.
They have to learn about that. They have to learn about, okay, this is your scoop. This is how much you're your pet gets every day. And we have to clean their cage because they don't know about toilet paper. And we have to do that for them. And you have to go through that routine with them. And it's something that they can easily do themselves. Okay. And once they show responsibility with that, then you can think of an animal that requires more. Because think about it, the dog has to go outside, they have to go for a walk, shoveling in the yard is involved, vaccinations are needed, deworming is needed.
Right.
And there's all sorts of breeds of dogs that have different temperaments and different things that they need to do. So they have baby teeth, and they actually lose all 32 of those baby teeth after they erupt. So they teeth to get their baby teeth, and then they teeth when they lose their baby teeth to get their adult teeth.
Okay. So a lot of people do want to get a dog or even a cat, but let's focus on dogs for just a moment. Is there a breed? Yeah, there's that dog. Are there breeds that you recommend more for young children than you do?
We have to have both a dog that's sturdy and a dog that perhaps doesn't shed.
Okay.
And also wants to play games with a child, right? Mm-hmm. So if we pick a really small dog that's convenient, that's really tiny, they're going to be more fragile and more likely to be broken. And that's a tragedy both for them, the animal, and for the child. Yeah. Okay. You know, how do you explain, yes, you fell on your dog? And
so things like retrievers of some type, are those... I
really opt for medium-sized dogs for 5 or 6-year-olds because you want, like I said, something sturdy.
Okay.
And something that's also tolerant of children and has what I call a velvet mouth. In other words, they cover their own teeth with their lips. And so when they play with the child never feels the teeth. Okay. Because when a child feels a tooth, even if the animal's trying to direct them, like German Shepherds, they direct children by taking their arm with their mouths and move them. They're not biting them, they're making them move. Uh-huh. And for a reason, they're making them move. And a child can often perceive that as a bite. Sure. It's not.
So what's a breed that would have a velvet mouth?
Yeah.
The Chinese pug, the little pug.
Oh yeah.
That's and often the cockapoos and the mini labradoodles this one have a velvet mouth where they actually cover their teeth when they're playing.
Okay, and then one last question for you. You have been a veterinarian for a number of years now and have had to euthanize a number of pets. How do you suggest that parents speak to their child about the death of their pet?
It also depends on the age group. Usually if they're below the age of 9, I really talk to parents on whether or not they want to be present, because the child has a different concept of, a grandparent died. They don't really realize that grandpa or grandma is never going to be seen again. They're going to actually ask later, hey, where's grandpa? And then remember he's gone to heaven, or whatever their belief system is. And if they actually see a pet die, then that could be a catastrophic thing for them, because it's, death is death. I mean, it happens as beliefs, and you can see it in the
right.
And maybe that's not a good memory to have. Okay. Some people need it for that closure, and some ages need it. And I think the hardest age is 11 to 12. That's just when they're starting to realize they want to be independent, but they're neither an adult or a child. They're in between. They're still growing, and they want to be responsible, and they think that they can do things that they can't really do yet. And they want to be considered sometimes an adult, and sometimes they want to run around and play with their friends.
Sure.
It's a really awkward age. So I think it's been a long time ago for me, but I remember it being really awkward. Okay. Not knowing if I wanted to hang out with the teens or if I wanted to hang out with the younger kids.
Yeah. Right.
So, and each child is different. Some of them are very vested and emotional, and some of them,
Well, do you recommend, I know that a lot of people do this. If they have a goldfish or a hamster or a parakeet, and the parakeet dies, the parents quickly go out and replace it with one that looks just like it. Do you recommend doing...
The child knows it's not the same one.
That's what I believe too, but So
my poor sister-in-law tried that with our goldfish, who was named Millennium, And Millennium was 3 years old, and their life expectancy is 1 year.
Wow.
He was in charge of watching him while we were out of town. Well, he passed away finally. I mean, he far outlived everybody. And she was unsure he was dead because he was in his little castle, and she rocked it and the castle fell forward and broke his tank. So she had to replace the tank, replace the castle, replace the rock, and she found another little fish who looked very much like Millennium. And my son came in and he looked in the fish tank and he said, "Hi, fish." And I said, "Is that Millennium?" "No."
He knew it right away.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That is so cool.
All right.
And he just asked his aunt, "Where's Millennium?" And she was like, "Well, he passed away and I thought you would really miss him, so I found this nice fish that looked like his brother."
Oh.
And I said, "Well, what do you name him?" And I said, he said, "Reno."
All right. There you go.
Oh, that's hilarious.
All right. So just in closing, I wanted to share a few books with you guys. Just
Yes.
On Death. I'll Always Love You is about a boy and his dog as they grow old together. We had another one on another segment, Saying Goodbye to Lulu. But I have a couple of books to help. I Want a Dog is hysterical. It's about a little girl who wants to have a dog and mommy keeps saying no. And maybe when you're older, so she starts practicing with her roller skate. And she takes her roller skate on walks, and she has all of the friends in the neighborhood and their roller skates, and they're practicing for when they get a dog. And then I absolutely love this because some parents want to get reptiles. And yes, reptiles carry salmonella, but we need to be very safe with them. Wash your hands before playing with the pet and wash your hands after, and understand that they're not that warm, cuddly pet, okay? But this one's great. This little boy is trying to prove to his mom that he is a responsible pet owner. So he writes, "Dear Mom, I want an iguana." She writes back, "Huh, you're not old enough, thanks, nice try." So it's a really cute book. You need to try that one. And then also Just Dog. It's about naming your dog. And they end up, this little dog is just named Dog. That's why his name is Just Dog. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So is your family ready for a pet? Can you afford it? Can you take care of it? Do you have time for it? And is everyone in your family ready for that pet? Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us on Child's View. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Dr. Ann Hudick.
Thank you.